Hi, John. How y'all doing? Hope your day well. You feeling swell. This angle might be a little bit blurry. This camera sucks. I apologize. We trying something new. You hear me? Hey, I think I like it. I'm not sure yet. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Hi, Stephanie. Me and the tribe are ready to be informed on the 2006 Chungju curling iron case. Real story behind the glory. What is the glory?
Bada bing, bada boo.
We're
We're
going to
good,
be
gay?
talking about a lot of different victims today, and a
Oh.
lot of them wanted to remain anonymous. In some sources, you can actually find either their last name, their surname, or you can find their full name.
That don't
But
sound
just
too
to make
anonymous.
it a little bit better, we're going to call them student number one. It's just going to be easier to follow because there's a lot of stories to get through today.
Okay.
Student number one made maybe only one mistake, and that mistake was picking up a phone call. I mean, it's not even really a mistake. By most people's books, people pick up their phone calls all the time. That's the purpose of a phone. But to these 5 insecure,
fault.
power-tripping bullies, it was the biggest mistake that she could have made in her entire life. June 2017, student one gets a phone call from a girl in her class's boyfriend. So some random dude in her class calls her, and I'm not even sure why he called student one.
Right.
Either it was random, maybe he had to ask her a question, maybe he wanted to talk to her, or maybe the girlfriend told him to call. I really don't know if it was a setup, but he calls student one, she picks up, and that's it. There's no cheating, there's no affair, there's no flirting, nothing. Student one simply picked up an incoming call. And that is why 5 girls in her grade decided to beat her an inch of her life the very first time.
Why?
They forced student one out of her house, hit her with flip-flops, demanding to know why she would even dare pick up this guy's phone call. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you a slut? They forced her to come to this karaoke bar. They call it norebangs in Korea, and it's a little bit different from the Western karaoke bars. You can actually rent private rooms. You have this big screen in your private room and these microphones. It's so loud. So they turn up the music in that norebang. They start hitting her with the microphone over and over on the head. They're punching her. They beat her until she was covered with her own blood. Thankfully, student one was alive. She did the right thing. The thing that everybody tells you to do if you've been a victim of a violent crime or if you've been bullied.
You
She
heard
went
him
straight to
back.
the police.
Oh.
The police did not hold up their end of the social contract. They didn't do their jobs. The police did nothing. The bullies found out that she had gone to the police and they decided they were going to teach her a lesson.
What?
They felt like they had to put her through something torturous this time. So she wouldn't even think to ever report them ever again. They said to her, "Do you think that we wouldn't notice that you went to the cops? Do you think we're dumb? You'll be dead the next time we catch you." They wanted to keep their word. 2 months later, September 1st of 2017, student one was invited by one of her close friends to go grab burgers and then go to the movies. Okay, look, she really needed this. Like, she needed this night out with a friend to de-stress, to eat some burgers and not worry about these 5 bullies that were harassing her every single day in school. So she gets ready and she shows up at this restaurant early. She sits down, she's got her burger ordered, and she's just sitting there waiting, anxiously waiting for her friend to get there. I mean, maybe she's staring at the restaurant door, just thinking about the movie that they're gonna watch. Maybe they're gonna go grab food afterwards. Maybe they're gonna eat ramen at a convenience store.
I like
when
ramen.
Suddenly, the door to the restaurant swings open,
I do.
and her bullies rush in. 5 girls. They walk straight up to her and they say, "Get up. Follow us." You don't want to make a scene, do you? I think the most devastating part about this is the bullies had gotten student one's friend and forced her to set her up. So you know how her friend was like, "Come meet me for burgers"? The bullies were like, "Text your friend right now. Text student one right now."
I ain't
Her
gonna
friend
lie.
was never coming to get burgers.
What friend is that? That's not a friend. I don't care what you got going on. If you trying to set my friend up, I will not enable that. What the hell? I guess we can't be too mad at the friend, but like still, bro.
I think the most devastating part about this is the bullies had gotten student one's friend and forced her to set her up. So you know how her friend was like, "Come meet me for burgers"? The bullies were like, "Text your friend right now. Text student one right now." Her friend was never coming to get burgers. She was never going to go to the movies with her. She knew what the bullies had in store for her. There is CCTV footage of student 1 walking out of the restaurant with the 5 bullies. So what happens is, at first, she walks out and she's willingly leaving the restaurant. And I'm saying willingly in the sense that it wasn't forcible. Like, they're not dragging her out of the restaurant. Probably she was scared to say no and scared of making a scene. But it seems like when they instruct her to go into the alleyway next to the restaurant, she steps away and tries to leave. So one of the bullies grabs her by the hair and drags her into the alleyway.
Yeah.
And almost immediately after, I'm sure while they're still in view of the main road, because the alleyway, it's not like it's just, there's a turn immediately. Like, you've seen an alleyway from the main road. You can see straight down it.
Yeah.
Right afterwards, a police car is seen driving past the alleyway.
Wow.
The police hail her a second time. They keep driving. Whether they saw her or not is unclear, but the result was nothing and nobody was stopped. Instead, the bullies, the 5 bullies, they drag her to a quiet place and they start punching her. The crazy thing is, it's secluded, but it's not isolated. Like, this is a busy part of South Korea. So a few passerbys, they see student 1 being punched and nobody tries to stop them. Nobody tries to call the police. But it freaked out the bullies enough that they dragged her to a nearby factory instead that was closed. And they started assaulting her with anything that they could get their hands on. Out of the 5 bullies, it was mainly 2 girls doing most of the physical abuse. But there were still 3 girls just standing there, yelling, threatening the victim, watching as their friends assaulted her with iron pipes, glass soju bottles, bricks, chairs. They used a knife to cut her skin, and they burned her with cigarettes, and they found this vitamin 500 glass bottle. It's like these vitamin supplements in South Korea, and they're in these tiny glass bottles, and the glass is thick. It's probably thicker than a beer glass. And they start hitting student 1 with it, and they're screaming and laughing. How come this bottle won't break? Let's just hit her till the bottle breaks. They were laughing as they said this.
But what
they
the fuck?
also laughed as they said, I like the smell of her blood. Let's keep going, shall
What the fuck? What? What is wrong with these kids? Oh my god. What? There's no way. These are literal social psychopaths. I don't understand why this is happening. I ain't gonna hold you. This is a different form of bullying. This is beginning stage psychopathy. Is that a word? Psychopathy? Psychopathy? Psychopathic? They tweaking, bruh. Oh god, they tweaking. No. I like the smell of her blood is so wild. Like, you're a child. Where the parents at?
I like the smell of her blood. Let's keep going, shall we?
Blood don't even smell good.
Serious injuries to her jaw, the back of her head. She was bleeding everywhere, and they complained, God, why is she bleeding so much? Her blood is dirty. At one point, student 1 passes out, loses
call her a
consciousness, and the
mudblood?
police say, let's beat her up more since we're already guilty of attempted murder. Might as well. They tortured her for nearly 2 hours, and they did all of this thinking that they were going to get away with it, thinking that they taught her a lesson. They had no idea that they were recorded by the CCTV near the factory. The whole 2 hours of the assault was recorded, which I don't even know if they care. I don't even know if they care, because they were caught on camera, and I'm going to show you this footage, forcing student 1 onto her knees, like the begging pose, like pleading for her life, and taking pictures of her with the flash on. I don't know, as some sort of sick evidence of their torture, like a trophy. Yeah, I mean, I guess they wanted to show it to others of like this. Look what we did to her. Look what will happen if you go to the police and tell on us. They would later share this picture.
The kneeling photo, or? Oh my gosh.
So the CCTV is in black and white, but every inch of this student 1's body was covered in blood. Like, I'm talking, her hair is caked in blood. Every part of her arm and legs are covered in her own blood. They took this picture with the flash on, and one of the bullies would actually send this to a senior upperclassman. And in South Korea, the social hierarchy of age is very intense. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this by now, but if you're a junior in high school, the sophomores in high school are usually bowing 90 degrees to you when they see you in the hallways.
Facts.
Like, it's not even an upperclassman, underclassman type of ordeal. Like, it's very serious. There's even
the
a
same
term
thing in
to
Haitian
call someone
households,
like
or-
언니, 오빠, 형, 누나, right?
In like Haitian culture, yeah, they treat that age thing very seriously. It's more for like elderly people than for like the younger folks. I mean, you're still supposed to show respect to like folks that's older than you, but for the elders, that's where they really like, you gotta show the utmost respect. And I think that's not really, I think that's more of like a general thing, but I see it enforced more in places outside the US.
Hyung Nuna, right?
Hyung.
And she sends,
Oppa.
the bully sends it to an 언니. So this is
Who's older
someone
than her?
older than her and someone that she actually is somewhat scared of. Maybe the bully's bully. I have no idea. But she sends this picture and the 언니 texted back, "What did you do?" "I hit a kid. They'll say it's attempted murder. Do you think I went overboard?" "You did that? Did you do it alone?" "You're a real psycho, LOL. Did you and your friend do it together? Answer me." She doesn't respond. So the 언니 texts back, "Answer me, you bitch. Are you really sending this to me right now asking if it's okay? I'm getting really tired of you now. You need to control yourself better."
What
That
is
conversation is
this?
the most chilling, weird,
Yes.
unnormal, natural conversation I've ever heard. Like, what is going on?
That's why a lot of people had a problem with this conversation once it started getting public, because
Sorry,
that's not how you react to a picture like this.
right.
You don't just say, "Ugh, I'm getting sick of you. You've been acting up these days."
Yeah.
You need to
To a picture
control
like
yourself.
this. But thankfully, the 언니 does do something about it. She kind of sleeps on it, but she ends up bringing this picture to the police. And the five teenagers would be taken in by authorities, and only 2 would be charged as the main perpetrators.
Of course.
The only reason that they were caught is because this 언니 sent the picture into the police. When the bullies found out that the 언니 had reported them, they just scurried to turn themselves into the police, not because they felt remorse, not because they wanted to serve their time for their heinous crime, but they heard that judges are easier on them if they turn themselves in first. When they were questioned on why they did this, they said the victim was being rude to an 언니, which means, an upperclassman. Which is a straight up lie. They did this because her boyfriend called Student 1, and Student 1, being a normal human being, picked up a phone call.
Which is like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? That's
There's a
fucking
picture
crazy,
of
bro.
the floor of the factory
Man,
where
fuck them kids.
there's just blood staining the entire place where she was kneeled. And then these are her injuries, and that is her shoe covered in
Oh
blood.
my god.
Yo.
That is her?
Yeah. These
Even
bullies
the
would actually
blurry
only pay for
photos
their
look
crimes by
bad.
spending a few years in prison. The main bullies received 2 years in juvenile detention centers. Another bully received just a few months. And all of South Korea was pretty outraged. I think the feeling of injustice practically ran through the whole nation. The judge
yeah.
tried to argue minors are physically and mentally impulsive, and they have
Right.
the same ability to perceive as adults do. The court's not going to try these teens under the same standard as adults. The girls, the bullies, they show guilt and reflection. We must acknowledge that there's room for change with educational rehabilitation.
Acknowledge.
Fine. Maybe with rehabilitation, there will be no such thing as bullying anymore. But that clearly wasn't the case. In fact, more extreme cases of bullying started to pop up all across South Korea after this viral case. Some even inspired the popular Netflix drama, The Glory. These are the real life stories that inspired that drama.
This the intro? Damn, I'm thinking we get full into the story. The Glory, so... highlight the side angle. I think I'm feeling it, I ain't gonna hold you. Yo, this is crazy. What is The Glory?
As always,
like?
full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com, as well as resources if you're being bullied or if you've been having darker thoughts. Please seek out help. I'm going to leave a few links and hotlines in the description. But with that being said, there's also going to be a content warning for intense
W.
bullying,
Ron Mango.
school violence, and taking of one's life. And just know that if you're feeling bullied or feeling alone, you're not alone.
Facts.
There are people out there that can help you, that you can talk to. And I
Facts.
know it feels hard, so please just check the resources. And another thing, this isn't necessarily in the show notes, but The Glory on Netflix is a 16-episode Korean drama that's been widely talked about. I actually made like 3 videos on it, okay? We've covered the whole series on our other podcast channel, Miss Mango Butter, Baking a Mystery, Baking a Murder, where we cover like fictional thriller shows, movies, and books. I can leave a link to those, but honestly, The Glory itself, the K-drama on Netflix, has been really good, and it's been touted as a prime example of the saying, art imitates life. So The
Touted?
Glory follows the story of a woman named Moon Dong-eun, who's on this path of just pure revenge. Like, she's been plotting this revenge for nearly 20 years.
We watch it? Okay, bet. Let's watch it. I think I want to watch Yeah, can I just say it? There's a couple K-dramas that we have to tap into.
So the glory follows the story of a woman named Moon Dong-eun, who's on this path of just pure revenge. Like, she's been plotting this revenge for nearly 20 years of her life. The story goes, she was bullied in high school by a group of rich kids. And this is no, like, normal bullying, not that there is any, but she was permanently disfigured. The bullies had held her down while they burned her arms and legs with a curling iron. They beat her, they sexually assaulted her, and they all got away with it. Back in high school, Dong-eun had tried to tell the school officials. She tried to tell the police about the bullying. They all refused to take action because the rich kids had powerful parents, that these administrators, that these police officers wanted to be on their good side. High school Dong-eun, she couldn't handle the mental and physical torture. So multiple times she contemplates and almost goes through with taking her own life. And in the end, I guess something in her just snaps. She decides, I'm not gonna end my life. I'm gonna get revenge. And she feels like her life is over already. Why die? And then what? These bullies are going to go on living their best lives bullying more people? So she sets off on this 20-year-old journey to commit the perfect revenge to make sure that the bullies get what's coming to them.
20 years?
So the drama follows Dong-eun and the bullies that are now in their late 30s. And I think what makes this show different from all the other Korean dramas in the past that have just shown aspects of high school bullying is, which side note, Korean dramas do have a lot of depictions of school bullying. I remember being shocked watching Boys Over Flowers, and there's so many clips where the main character gets bullied by having rich students throw eggs at her. She walks into the school, they're throwing eggs at her and pouring bags of flour onto her. I remember showing my mom and being like, that's crazy. And she's like, yeah, Korean bullying is that crazy. It was the weirdest thing. But the glory is even more intense than that. But I think what makes it stand out is it's a pretty close and honest depiction of bullying in South Korea. Like, maybe not the revenge, but the bullying aspect. Like, just how deep the layers of school bullying are. The police corruption, the school administrators' negligence, their motives to make this school seem like the perfect school, intimidation of victims, parents using their money to get away with things, letting their kids get away with things. Like, it makes sense, especially in a country like South Korea, that this K-drama became one of the most anticipated releases in a while. Which, side note, this is so pertinent to the story later.
Pertinent!
But all the actors and actresses were
I got too excited at that word. I'm sorry. I like that word. It just feels like it's important, bro. I ain't gonna hold you. I'm so sorry.
This is so pertinent to the story later.
Pertinent.
But all the actors and actresses were screened for past school bullying records because the directors and producers wanted to make sure nobody in the drama was later exposed for being a bully in real life.
Can you imagine that?
Exactly. Imagine one of the
Wow.
bullies on the drama is like a real life bully.
Yeah,
So
that'd be crazy.
keep this in
How do
mind
they
for
screen
later.
that, I wonder? Like, hey, let me just talk to all your classmates. And
Yeah, I wonder if they go back to your school records, but none of these stay on the school records.
Exactly.
Do they get a PI?
Yeah, it's...
Or do they do the most...
I'm gonna keep it all the way up, bean. When I was in middle school, I was a bully. I don't really say this proudly. I say this with shame, bro. I ain't no better. I wasn't a good kid in middle school. I ain't gonna hold you. To be fair, I didn't even start it, but the kid was messing with me. I made him pee in his shoe, and then I made him wear it. Oh, bro. Hey, if I ever see you, bro, I'm sorry. Times was crazy back then, wasn't it? You did start it though, bro. You literally did start it. I'm just saying though.
Do they get a PI?
Yeah, it's...
Or do they do the most basic search?
How they
And
screening
even
folks
today,
for
like,
real?
people are getting exposed day by day, right?
Okay, so the bullying thing in Korea has become such a shit show. A lot of K-pop idols and actors and actresses, just anyone in mainstream Korean news is constantly being accused of bullying. Some of them are true bullies, but recently we've seen a trend of false allegations of bullying. And it's completely ruined multiple people's careers. Yeah, because, you know, I think that's the problem with being a true victim and these false allegations is that it happened so long ago that there might not be enough evidence. And so it's a really tricky situation. Yeah, very tricky. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how they would screen for something like that, but keep this in mind
Sound like Cap?
because maybe they didn't screen everyone.
Right.
Okay, just keep that in mind.
Right,
So the
I'm already
Glory, it
sensing
might
the
seem
cat,
like
bro.
this really well-written show, and it is, but in the art imitates life kind of way. People start immediately drawing connections between the show and real-life bullying cases that were well known in South Korea like many years ago. And the show was not just a genius Netflix idea. It was based off these true stories. And there's 3 central themes that the Glory explores, and all these themes have real-life cases that they were inspired by. The 3 elements, the 3 themes are bullying, suicide, and revenge. Those are like the key themes in this whole K-drama. So
Okay.
let's explore the real life cases. The
Please.
most standout aspect of the bullying in the show is that the bullies are burning Moon Dong-eun, the protagonist, with a curling iron. They're literally holding her down, taunting her, telling her that they're going to use her skin as a way to check the temperature of the curling iron to see if it's hot enough for their hair. In 2006, Chung, a middle schooler, again, I don't want to use her full name. I believe you can find it, but let's call her Student 2 for privacy reasons. Student 2 was hospitalized for 2 months. She had traumatic injuries all over her body. Her parents, doctors, even the police were called to the hospital when she was brought in because, I mean, they were alerted, they were alarmed. They were confused on how she got these injuries to begin with. They were concerned for her current health state, her mental state. It's almost like she didn't even realize that she was in pain, though. The whole time, she's just begging her parents, you have to let me transfer to a different school. You have to let me transfer to a different school.
Oh, God,
It's a
parents.
bit of an odd reaction. The parents are more concerned about, like, what happened to you? Who did this to you? Why do you care about transferring to a new school right now? But she just kept repeating, you have to let me transfer to a different school. Please, like, I'm scared of my friends. Finally, with enough begging, Student 2 tells everyone what happened to her. And it's a story that I don't think most of South Koreans have ever forgotten. According to Student 2, her hell on earth started 20 days ago. It lasted a full 20 days. May 2nd, she was on her way home from school, and she always takes the same route. She always does. She listens to the music. She
What
kinda
song?
just stares at the ground, and she's daydreaming.
What
when she
number
sees
is this
several
student?
pairs of feet just right in front of her, blocking her way. She looks up. She sees a group of female students from her class.
Weirdos.
Call them A, B, and C. So 3 girls. They're known to be bullies. Like, that's what they're known for in their class. So Student 2, I mean, she always made sure to stay out of their way, kind of. She never really even existed in the same circle of friends. They're just the type of girls that she would avoid in the classroom. She wouldn't even make eye contact with them. So it was strange that they would just approach her out of nowhere. It was very random.
Red flags.
Either way, they asked her a question. And maybe she was so scared. Maybe she didn't know what answer would be appropriate. But she didn't respond. She just kind of stood there with her head hung. And immediately, smack. Right away, she was physically assaulted for not answering the question. She said, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't make a mistake in particular that I could think of. I think that they were just angry that I didn't respond quickly enough to their question.
I ain't gonna lie.
But from that day, I became their new target. The bully started demanding that Student 2 give up all of her allowance to them. And when they burned through her allowance, so let's say she gets $20 a week, they would force Student 2 to beg her parents for more money. She'd beg her parents, and when she tried to tell the police, you know, my family doesn't have that much to spare. Please, like, we don't have that much money. I don't have anything more to give you. They would start physically assaulting her. They would jump her, and that was just the beginning. Like, just the punches and slaps and the kicks, that was the beginning. Eventually, they felt like that wasn't getting the point across. So they sadistically pulled out one of their curling irons, plugged it in. 2 of the girls held her down by her arms. And the 3rd bully started burning her, holding the hot curling iron.
Hey, listen to me. Both of y'all. I've been bullied before. I went from a period of being a bully to being bullied to now not being anything. If you're being bullied, you fight back. I swear to God, you fight back as much as possible. It don't matter if they outnumber you. It don't matter if everybody is on the bully side. You fight back. You don't give in to anything they talking about. You don't believe anything that they're talking about. Most of them bullies, they hurt. They going through their own personal situations they don't have the emotional maturity to deal with, so they take it out on you. You don't deserve that, and you never will. You fight back, okay? No tribe member gonna accept none of that, bro. I don't want to hear about nobody in the tribe getting bullied. Nobody. And if you are getting bullied, you let us know. You let the tribe know. I mean, dead ass.
Literally just like the drama, because the drama is technically based off of this case, or at least this aspect. She said that you could hear her skin sizzling off her body, and when they removed it, she's left with these big giant red welts on her body. And that's not even the worst part. As it heals, you know how it fills with pus and then eventually it scabs over? Student 2 said, "It was so painful. I felt like I was gonna die. I couldn't even move or resist. I just wanted to run. They told me if I screamed from the pain that they would kill me." But that's not all. Once the wound started to finally heal and scab over, the bullies, the 3 girls, they would corner her after school and they would demand to see her wound. And while laughing amongst each other, they would rip the scabs off her body. Sometimes they would want her to be traumatized more, and they would force her to rip her own scabs off her body. She was also beaten with a baseball bat.
I'm getting so mad. I'm actually getting incredibly upset, bro. Yeah, that's the type of shit that causes lifelong trauma, bro. Oh my God.
Sometimes they would want her to be traumatized more, and they would force her to rip her own scabs off her body. She was also beaten with a baseball bat. She suffered from a protruding tailbone, which is a result of the abuse. And as student 2 is talking about what happened to her, she seems to kind of hesitate, as if there's more to the story. So the journalist, everyone's pushing her to open up, that she's safe now, she doesn't have to be scared of these bullies anymore. And she tells everyone that there's more scars on her chest. The bullies had tried to permanently disfigure her chest. There are streak marks all around. It looked like someone had taken like a clothespin, a safety pin,
What the
and just
fuck is
started
wrong with
digging
these
into her skin
kids?
to make red slash marks everywhere. And it looked like it happened
Yeah.
over the period of the 20 days. Some wounds were healing, some looked more fresh than others. Her father was these are not public, but her father showed the reporters pictures for evidence to show them, yes, this indeed did happen. And it was like this gut-wrenching moment for the father. He works as a chef, and he said that every day during those 20 days, he came home and he did notice things. He didn't think it was a big deal, but always in the middle of the night for the past month, he would wake up to screams coming from his daughter's room. He would wake up, check the time, and the next morning when he asked, she was just having nightmares. So when it happened again, he's like, oh, was she just having nightmares? Which she was, but it was happening a lot during the time that she was getting tortured. He regrets not asking her or demanding to know what was going on or even trying to wake her up. On top of that, around the same time, his daughter was begging to be transferred to a different school, and he didn't take it seriously. He thought that maybe she was trying to switch schools because it was less academically intense, or maybe a close friend of hers was going to a different school. He thought it was something like that. You know, one of those like kid excuses. That's kind of what he chalked it up to. He thought he was making the right move as a parent.
Okay, I get it. I do. I understand. Don't get me wrong. I understand where he's coming from. But if my kid is screaming in the middle of the night and they're asking to transfer schools, I'm not going to chalk it up to kid excuses, bro. What's going on, Jit? I'm happy to transfer you. But for what reason? Like, I'm going to ask questions, bro. I understand where the father's coming from. You know, it's a kid. Kids typically don't like school. Yeah, I get it.
He thought he was making the right move as a parent by making her stick it out at the school.
Yeah.
Once he found out the truth, now he couldn't sleep at night. He was just seething with anger. He demanded answers from the school on how they could even let this happen. He begged his daughter to give up the names of the bullies. And she was so hesitant. She's like, I can't tell you. And she said that they were going to kill her if she ever named them as the bullies. Finally, with enough prodding, student 2 tells her parents and the school who did this, and everyone's kind of shocked.
Why?
The girls she named are not the type of girls that would be bullies. They're not the type of girls that would bully anybody.
Why?
And I know, like, these girls can be perceived a certain way, but actually be completely evil. That wasn't the case here. These 3 girls genuinely did not bully student 2.
What do you mean?
Student 2 confessed that she was bullied into lying by the 3 real bullies.
So she just named 3 strangers?
3 random girls in the school that the bullies wanted her to name.
Wow. So, okay, what?
In the end, they did get down to the bottom of it and found out the identity of the actual bullies, the 3 girls, and
Do they
the
seem
school
like...
said they were going to investigate. After their investigation, they came out with a statement where they said, we've conducted an internal investigation God, I love internal.
3, we've concluded that somebody's lying and it wasn't these 3 prestigious students at our school.
We've conducted an internal investigation. God, I love internal investigations.
I don't.
And we've closed the case because student 2 and the 3 girls' stories aren't matching up. Yeah.
What?
If that's not the most obvious thing in the world, of course it's not matching up.
Why would
But the
it
school
match up?
continues. For us, it's becoming a case of she said, they said. The only thing we can confirm at this time is that she, student 2, had fallen off of a bike at one point, and that could be a result. That could result.
It was funny because of how ludicrous that excuse sounds, but then it became swiftly unfunny because what the fuck? what the actual fuck? So she got all the wounds falling off a bike. That's what you trying to say, school. Right. Okay.
That could result in some of her injuries, insinuating that potentially a lot of her injuries could have happened when she accidentally fell off a bike, which other classmates did witness this bike fall, which I don't know how in the world that would be feasible to get like 3rd-degree burn marks from falling off a bike. Her father said,
Maybe if
I mean,
you're
I just
falling
can't
at
believe how a school can be this
100 miles an hour.
lukewarm about a cruel case like this. A lot of netizens agreed. They posted about this case, they accused the school administrators of being corrupt, and they wrote, did the school get bribed by the perpetrator's parents? Their response makes this whole situation worse. I mean, just look at the pictures of her arms. If someone did this in the army or in the street, the police would have a field day. They wouldn't just ignore it. So why are the police ignoring it when it happens in a middle school?
Oh my god, this is middle school?
Yeah, most of the stories we're talking about are middle school.
So
Damn.
it's what, 13, 12?
13, 14. Does the school really believe this is a case of 2 sides having different perspectives? So the sentiment became, okay, fine. The school and the police won't do anything about it. Let the netizens do it. Let's expose these girls. But once news started spreading about this case, the police were forced to investigate. And this is when the main bully, they call her Kim confesses to the police for her crimes. And again, she didn't do this because she felt remorseful. It's, you know, if you're a minor, you confess to a crime, it's kind of well known that you get a higher chance of getting probation.
Right.
So even the way she confessed showed that she had zero remorse for what she did. She straight up said, yeah, I burned her about 9 times with a curling iron. I hit her around the head a couple of times, legs and arms maybe about like 7 times. This lasted for 20 days. And it's because student 2 promised me something and she didn't keep her promise. She also stated that she didn't turn herself in sooner because the whole situation was, quote, getting out of hand. She was promptly arrested, which is rare because Korea's law for minors is incredibly generous. Like if you're under the age of 14 and you commit a heinous crime such as rape, you still get probation. You get to go home. It's not even going to be on your record.
And then the names, nobody knows the names.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody will know what you did at 13 years old.
They still
And I'm
haven't
sure
changed
that
that?
will only escalate when you're 23, 33. The judge said, I arrested this girl because I wanted to set a precedent for how serious school bullying is in South Korea. Kim was arrested and sentenced, but I don't know what kind of precedent this judge was really trying to set out other than maybe trying to look good for a second there in the press. Because at the time, nobody knew the extent of her sentencing. He was like, this is private confidential information in the eyes of the law. We can't let it be known.
The
So
sentencing
people
of it
move on.
criminal?
We don't know if we're looking at juvenile detention center. We don't know if we're looking at probation, 2
Since
days
when was that
community
private?
service. The teachers involved in the case were also investigated and had administrative punishment, which is unknown again. What the extent was that? Because the school refused to tell reporters, but I
administrative punishment, right?
imagine a week paid time off, which is not a real punishment.
No.
Meanwhile, student 2 has to live with the emotional, the mental scars of this for the rest of her
Vacation,
life. After
bruh.
2 months in inpatient care, 2 months, she had to go to a psychiatric hospital. And this is in 2006, right? So this all passes over. And then with the glory trending recently, a lot of people are revisiting this case. And netizens are still furious. And there was an interesting question that was brought up. Like, do you think that these bullies grew up and regret what they did? Do you think that they live with shame and hate? There was so much newfound interest in this case and interest in what happened to that evil middle schooler. Like, what did she grow up to be? Now, obviously, we can't hunt this girl down, but huge news networks were able to dig into her sentencing in 2006 when the judge was like, I want to set a precedent for how we're going to take bullying seriously.
How long was her sentencing?
Kim, the main perpetrator, was sentenced to probation, meaning she was basically arrested for show and went straight back home to her family that night. The only punishment, if you can even call it that, was that an officer might stop by her house once in a while to make sure she's following the laws and not bullying people. This is probably the lightest punishment that she...
Hey, could you imagine somebody pulling up to your crib, some officer knocking on your front door? Are you bullying anybody, ma'am?
That she could have ever received. This is also not going to stay on her permanent record, meaning she could go into any career field after torturing a middle schooler to the point of scarring her for life. She could go on to be a police officer. We don't know what she is right now. She could be a police officer, a doctor,
worker,
yes, a nurse,
a
truly,
lawyer,
whatever she wants. And maybe she did become a healthcare worker.
She could have started an
imagine
OnlyFans.
that? Not knowing that the doctor that you're supposed to trust with your life and health permanently scarred someone for the fun of it. Because that's exactly what happened to student number 3. Student 3, Park Sang-min. So she is in a whole news network recently. She has fully released her identity, but we're going to call her student 3.
Okay.
She's 31 years old right now. And her 2 bullies had burned her arms in middle school with a hair straightener. They had literally clamped her arm into a hair straightener. The 2 bullies would go on to become a nurse and a social worker. At 31 years old, student 3 was trying to move on with her life. I mean, as best as she could, right? She still couldn't wear short sleeves during the summers in Korea, which, if you know, it's scorching hot. Every time she wore short sleeves, she said that she would catch a glimpse of herself in the mirror and she would just burst into tears. But sometimes she would try to be strong. She'd be like, you know what? I'm going to wear this short sleeve. Who cares, right? And then she would walk out of her room and she would see her parents' eyes fall to her arms. And she would just see their whole energy, their mood shift. They would get emotional. They would get angry. And she didn't want to dig up these complicated, buried memories again for everyone. So she never really wore short sleeves. She also really couldn't go out to the hair salon without feeling anxious. And all of this has to do with the fact that in second year of middle school, so like the 7th grade,
The hair curler.
bullies had forced her down, grabbed a hair straightener, clamped it on her arm for 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes, leaving her with a permanent scar for the rest of her life. It didn't start like that, though. The bullying escalated over the course of a year till it got so bad, finally someone noticed. And it didn't start with a hair straightener. It actually started with $1. Student 3 said that she was minding her own business. And kind of similar to the last story, but 2 of the girls in her grade came up to her and asked to borrow $1. She's like, okay, these are random girls asking me for $1. I'm just going to give it to them. The next day, they asked for another $1. Okay, maybe they're hungry, they forgot their lunch or something. She gives them another $1. And soon, they're not borrowing dollars, they're demanding money. They would walk over and instead of, hey, can I borrow $1? It's like, hey, give me $1. And it wasn't just $1 anymore. It was suddenly $10, $30, $50, $100. When she asked them, wait, why do I need to give you this money? Like, I'm so confused.
Right.
You haven't paid me back. What are you even using this money for? Like, why are you taking my money?
Fuck
they
off.
would say, because your existence is an inconvenience to me.
Fuck
To
you.
pay up.
Fuck.
And maybe if it had stopped there at the financial bullying, maybe the trauma wouldn't be as life-altering, but eventually she ran out of allowance money to give them. They start becoming physical with her. They start slapping her and beating her. They would drag her to one of the girls' houses.
Huh?
So bully
Oh,
A's
okay.
house, and they would use her as a punching bag for hours. They would just make her sit in the corner of the room, and these bullies would sit and giggle, gaggle, gossip, and then the minute that they felt a little bit of anger rise in their system, they would walk over and just torture her for the fun of it. Later in interviews, people were confused about this. You know, they asked her, why did you go to the girls' houses?
I was just about to ask too.
Couldn't you have just called for help or left? I mean, surely they didn't drag you all the way. Like, someone would have noticed if they're dragging you by the hair, right? They also asked how the bully's parents never realized that they were keeping a girl in the room just to bully her. Sometimes the bullying was for days. The bullies were very resourceful. They threatened student 3 that if she didn't follow them back to girl A's house, they would go and find her little brother and physically assault him instead. This was the threat that they constantly hung over her head. That's also why she never told the authorities, school administrators, or even her parents. She knew that the bullies would probably get off light anyway, and her brother would be their new target. So I think this is where the system is wrong. You know, I think if you're in a situation like that, you can tell the administrators and something does take action to the point where they cannot hurt you or your loved ones, then of course people are going to say something. As for the bully A's parents, she lied to them. She's like, Amma, this is my friend and she just ran away from home. Her mom is super abusive and she's even contemplating suicide. I just want to be there for her as a friend. Is it okay if she sleeps over for a few days? The mom would be like, wow, daughter, you're such a good friend. And since Bully A's parents would both work really long hours, they would all be at Bully A's house and using student 3 as a punching bag. The abuse went from punching and slapping to grabbing a fork and stabbing it all over her body, like head to toe. The two bullies would grab whatever item was nearby and they would throw it at her face. One time they threw a plastic pipe at her face and it permanently damaged her cornea. And she has slight vision problems ever since. The longest time she's ever stayed at her bully's house was for 3 days, and they basically starved her the entire time. During this interview, student 3 was asked, why didn't you try to leave at one point, you know? Especially when your eye is damaged, you didn't try to ever run away from the house? And she said there was no point. One time she did. They knew where she lived. They would either get to her brother or once they came over and they trashed her entire house, making it difficult for her family. They would flip furniture, ransack the whole place, all because she refused to come to Girl A's house.
Where's
There was
the
no
mom
part
and
of student 3 that
dad?
was safe. She was constantly covered in bruises and welts and just desperately trying to hide this from the adults. For 6 months, while the abuse lasted, she couldn't even fall asleep. Just like student 2, every time she closed her eyes, she would have these intense nightmares. So for 6 months, she felt like a sleepless zombie, just going through the motions of life and abuse. She tried gathering as many sleeping pills as she could and tried to take them in hopes of getting a dreamless sleep, but it just wasn't working. She even, in a desperate attempt, told her mom, Mom, I just want to go to sleep. I just want to sleep. I want to sleep so bad. I want to die. Like, what do I do? She said that she would zone out and stare out of her window of their apartment on the 3rd floor and wonder, if I fell out of the window, what are the chances of me surviving? If she went to her friends' apartments and they had balconies on higher floors, she always wondered if maybe this would be the place that she would come and jump if she had to take her own life. She said she constantly looked down at the ground and wondered, would I die? Would I live? Would I die? And then one spring day, student 3 was wearing a long sleeve white shirt because she can't wear short sleeves, but the wound on her arm wasn't healing properly and it had this like giant bubble of pus, like it was filled with liquid, and it was bulging out of her shirt. And her teacher noticed it and brought her in to be examined, but the pus made the shirt stick to her arm. They had to cut the shirt off of her to examine her. Oh my God. Her parents were informed, and that's how the bullying came to light. One of the most heartbreaking parts of the story is that she was asked on the show what she would like to say about her bullying and how it was handled, and she talked about how during the time, there were a lot of adults in her life that asked her, well, what did you do? Like, not saying it's your fault, but you must have done something to make the girls react like this.
Wow.
She said if there's one thing she would like to say is she would tell these adults that she did nothing wrong. The bullies were forced to apologize for what they did to her, and it wasn't a real or true apology. One of them was straight up laughing while she apologized. And you guessed it, 0 consequences. The main bully was given 40-hour community service and a 1-week school suspension. She wasn't even expended.
I feel like these bullies, they should at least get exactly what they did to the victims.
Thank you. Oh my. Yes. Literally what you did to them girls is exactly what should happen to you. Yeah. Oh my God, bro. I'm heated. That's so fucked up. How you do this to another person and sleep at night, bro? What the fuck? I mean, I can't really say nothing. I made some dude step into his own shoe of pee, but I don't think he was I mean, he might have. He started it. Not only that, but he was bullying my friend, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Fuck that kid.
I feel like these bullies, they should at least get exactly what they did to the victims.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Literally.
you scar someone for life.
You get scarred.
You get the same scar.
An eye for an eye. We need to go
At
back to that.
least.
Right, at least, right.
Because
Exactly.
it was your first choice to even give a scar.
And also
so-
the fact that you did, even if the bully gets the scar, it still doesn't take away the trauma
No,
the victim's
it
going to
doesn't.
live with for the rest of their lives. I just don't see how they think just apology will do.
It reminds me of how a lot of countries, including the US, treat like sexual assault cases.
Yes,
There's so
exactly.
much concern about the perpetrator's future. Like, we
Exactly.
can't let this mistake ruin their future.
But we can
What's
though.
worse is that she and the main bully ended up at the same college.
And we should.
And they bumped into each other. So this is after middle school is when the abuse took place. After high school, in college, they bumped into each other. And maybe you would think that this bully has some sort of remorse.
No.
She smirked, walked up to student 3 with all of her friends and said, "I know this girl. What major are you?" Student 3 said that she was shaking the whole time. She was so angry, so scared, she couldn't even respond. Like, it was like her trauma was flooding back to her. Thankfully, they didn't have any more run-ins after that, and student 3 had friends that stuck by her in college. And it wasn't easy making friends. She said after her abuse...
I'm furious. I'm furious. No change of heart. I know you. What major are you? Bro, you bullied me to that point in the past. And then I see you in college and you walk up to me talking about some, I know you. What major are you in? Oh, what major I'm in? I'll tell you what major I'm in. I'll tell you exactly what major I'm in. My major is ass. With a minor of kicking, bro.
Student 3 said that she was shaking the whole time. She was so angry, so scared, she couldn't even respond. Like, it was like her trauma was flooding back to her. Thankfully, they didn't have any more run-ins after that, and student 3 had friends that stuck by her in college. And it wasn't easy making friends. She said after her abuse, she was just having such a hard time trusting anyone that wanted to befriend her. She felt like they were wolves in sheep's clothing. A lot of
feel
friends
that.
stuck by, even when she
feel
was
that a
not
lot.
trusting of them. And now she has stopped taking sleep medications. She's been able to find some happiness and move on.
that's
And
so
even though
good.
she's moved on, there's really no justice in this story either. She has to apologize to every hairstylist and hairdresser to not use a hot tool in her hair, because the minute that they pick up a hot iron, she starts to panic. And to make matters worse, the last time she checked on the 2 bullies, one of them was a nurse and the other one was in social work. They both constantly post about doing charitable work. She said that she was speechless at the audacity of these people. I mean, she was angered by their choice of profession. And once the show The Glory came out, her friends were texting her asking if she was okay, because the show reminded them so much of what happened to her. Student 3 says she cannot bring herself to watch the K-drama. And more recently, there was a case that also reminded people of The Glory. And this one I don't think inspired The Glory because it was so recent, but this just goes to show, like, nothing has really changed. July 15th, 2020, let's call him student
2020?
4. A young man, 22 years old, July 15th was his birthday. He didn't really have any special plans, so a group of acquaintances had texted him, "Hey, let's go celebrate for your birthday." He took them up on it. I mean, it's kind of sweet of them to remember his birthday even, right? The acquaintances, I don't even think they can be categorized as human beings. They met up with student 4, dragged him
Wait,
to...
I'm sorry. Are these classmates or are
yeah,
these
classmates.
colleagues?
Yeah.
Oh, in college?
So they dragged him to a nearby vacant lot, like a parking lot, for his birthday, right? And they're like acquaintances, so just like random classmates, not necessarily friends, right?
But they're
I
in
wouldn't
school.
even pull
yeah,
up.
so you wouldn't think that these are bad people. It's not like strangers that you meet online. You know them from class. They bring a chair
No.
to the parking lot. They tie him up to the chair, cover his face with a hood, and they tell him that they had prepared a special birthday candle present for him. Birthday
No.
candle.
They tie him to the chair?
Yeah, like his ankles, his arms behind the chair, everything. Put a hood over his head, and they get close to him and they say, "So let's celebrate your birthday." They spray gasoline all over his body, and they put one firework on each knee, and they light the firework.
They're trying
So
to
it's
kill
just
the.
slowly going down,
They're trying to kill him,
basically.
like sadistically kill him.
When the fireworks exploded, the fire caught onto student 4's whole body.
What
He
the
said,
fuck?
"It was so hot and painful, I fell over. They saw me in pain and they just kept telling me, 'Keep rolling,' to put out the fire." That's what they said. They saw a literal human being on fire and they said, "Keep rolling."
So we set them niggas on fire. Okay. That's what we doing then. Oh, I'm hot. There is no reason why this nigga should have been at that situation by himself with no actual friends. You think he's gonna get over that? He's never gonna look at his birthday the same. The closest thing I can think of in comparison was when I got tied up and somebody put out cigarettes on my legs, bro. But that's like the closest situation. But to have gasoline thrown on you, watching a fireworks slowly descend, oh my God, that's truly sadistic. We setting niggas on fire, bro. If that's how niggas moving in 2020, bro, that was 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
They saw a literal human being on fire and they said, keep rolling. I thought I was gonna die like this. When I begged them to call 119 emergency services,
Right.
they said, this place is a little isolated, so it might take too long for the ambulances to come. Student 4 has third-degree burns on 40% of his entire body. That's not even the part that'll get your blood boiling. The perpetrators got away with probation. Meanwhile, student 4 is not only left with irreparable damage of what they did mentally, physically, but he's also been left with an $80,000 medical bill. He has to get a skin transplant surgery as well as reconstructive treatment, which, yes, the perpetrators did settle monetarily for what they did, which the amount was decided by prosecutors and not really agreed upon by the parties involved. The families only paid $40,000. Student 4's family demanded the police pay the rest, and they all said, well, what do you want us to do? We don't have money. There's a current civil suit against the bullies, but I mean, the fact that we're even here is wild. Student 4's family is filing a lawsuit because the justice system couldn't get them justice the first time around. So how is the case being handled like this? Originally in 2020, I think that this received a lot of attention, but with the glory being a big conversation, it's become there's a resurgence on this topic. The case has gotten a lot more attention in the public eye, and people are so unhappy. Like, the parallels between the drama, the corruption from the legal system side. Netizens
Insane.
wrote, is the prosecutor on this case a fuck? They lit someone on fire and they're getting probation?
Yeah.
To all the prosecutors in this country, how exactly are you calculating these crimes? How do attempted murderers end up with probation? Does the victim need to die for perpetrators to be punished? A person was almost burned to death and probation? You guys are crazy people. Are you joking? Someone commented what a lot of us are probably thinking right now. Throw them all in jail and set them on fire.
I agree.
Student 4's mom said.
I do.
It doesn't matter what we wanted. The prosecutors didn't care. The prosecutors didn't care what we had to say. They just gave them probation. When I asked for medical fees to be covered, everyone just shrugs and say, they don't have money. So what can we do? And maybe these feel like extreme cases, which they are. But it doesn't change the fact that school bullying and primarily school violence is a huge problem.
I think that's
Yes.
maybe another reason, probably why people continues to bully, because of the consequences. Nobody's scared. Nobody's terrified of the
Yeah.
consequences.
It's like laughable.
Hey, and I'm only speaking so callously because I have no sympathy for these school bullies. But I promise you, bullying would decrease if folks were starting to get lit on fire. Is you drinking water or not? Like, I'm looking dead at you, cub.
Yes.
Maybe another reason, probably why people continues to bully, because of the consequences. Nobody's scared. Nobody's terrified
At
of
all.
the consequences.
At all,
It's
bro.
like laughable, the consequences people get. I think you would get heavy punishment for cheating in South Korean schools versus physically assaulting someone. Like, for cheating, getting caught cheating, unless you're the kid of a rich parent, yeah, you might be expelled. I think also there's so many elements that have to do with school violence in South Korea. And I just want to put a disclaimer. I think school violence is prevalent everywhere. I think just in different
Facts.
forms. So in the US, we're pretty familiar with how school violence takes place. In South Korea, there's so many different elements of why it happens like this. There's the seniority complex between how even when you're 15, you have to bow down and properly greet people that are 16. I'm not talking adults, not the elderly, not your parents' friends. You have to talk to them with a completely different vernacular. It's called
I ain't gonna lie, I think I'd be really bad at that, bro. Only person that I'm bowing down and greeting is somebody that I respect. And even then, I'm not giving you a 90-degree bow. I'm giving you I respect and appreciate you. You're important. And I acknowledge that. Only person that I'm bowing down fully all the way is God. And even then, you gotta show me that you God before I'm like, oh, okay, bet. What's happening, my G? Appreciate you for everything you've done. Life been crazy. But I thank you for allowing me to live it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not talking adults, not the elderly, not your parents' friends. You have to talk to them with a completely different vernacular. It's called 존댓말. It's to show respect. There's all of
존댓말.
these things, and it's just, there's so many elements to it. Also, the teachers and school administrators in these schools are so focused on their careers, and they're so focused on making sure that they look good. And when you're a school administrator and there's bullying in your school, you look bad
Right.
because
See,
you
that's
can't
the
even
issue
handle
here.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's so many problems with this. Again, corruption in schools, corruption in the government. There was a man appointed, Chung Sun-shin, as the chief of the National Office of
Why his
Investigation.
eyes look like that?
He was appointed. This is like a heavy title, huge political office, okay? One of his job duties was to investigate extreme cases of school violence in schools in Korea, right?
Uh-huh.
He had to resign after 1 day in office. And I'll tell you why. It was revealed that the first day in office, he used his position to help his son avoid punishment for bullying and school violence.
Wow.
That's insane.
This is the man that was supposed to be in charge for getting justice for the victims. His son was a bully, and he helped cover it up. And his son goes to the Harvard of South Korea, Seouldae. Like, where are the consequences for any of these people? Just like in The Glory.
It's
Non-existent.
like literally K-drama. This
Yes.
is like even in K-drama you're like, ugh, this
Even in-
can't be real.
Exactly. In K-drama, you're like, ugh, this is so far-fetched. Nobody really does that. Like, that's so an
But
abuse
they
of power.
do.
How do you get away with it? I think another huge incentive for authorities is that the law is so lenient to minors, it's almost seen as not really worth the work to investigate school bullying because you're going to investigate, spend all these resources, and then what, the 14-year-old is going to get probation anyway?
So there needs to be something changed about the
Facts.
law.
Yes. So a lot of South Koreans have been arguing for lowering the age of the responsibility. And right now it's 14. They want to keep lowering it. I think recently it was lowered to 13. There should be like
Put it
a
at
whole different
12.
set of laws for school violence, I think.
Yes.
Side note, the government
That
does
too.
try to make it seem like they're doing a lot to stop violence.
Well, I'm
like
sure.
installing more CCTV cameras near schools. But it's not really helping. There's about
Why
20,000
more
CCTV
cameras?
cameras nearby schools around Seoul. 93% of them are said to be so low in resolution, it can't even identify who the bully is. Like potato. It's so grainy. You can't tell which student is who. You
Minecraft
can't tell which
footage.
student is being beat and which student is beating. So I don't know why they're trying to pat themselves on the back for this. And again, I'm not trying to say South Korea is the only one that's bad. I mean, again, look at what's going on in schools all around the world. It's horrible. But nearly 1 in 10 students in Korean schools, elementary through high school, 1 in 10 have suffered from school violence. Not just bullying, not verbal bullying, not being an outcast, not being a social pariah. I'm talking violence. 1 in 10. That's 10 out of every 100 students that is physically assaulted in school.
Damn,
We've talked
bruh.
about student 1, 2, 3, and 4 out of the 100. Let's talk about student 5. This case caused international outrage. In 2021, a Mongolian student living in South Korea was tortured for 6 hours by school bullies. 6 hours. They recorded the assault. They tried to sell it to other classmates for $5. The video.
That's so freaking crazy. Like all these cases, they record it. All these bullying. they
Like
take pictures, they
sickos.
record it, they brag about it, they send it to their friends and classmates. It's like a sick thing they do.
I see a lot of people liken it to gang activity. So in gang activity, you almost flaunt your crimes as a threat to others.
Yeah.
Like, you see what I'm willing to do, right? You see what I've done. I'm not even scared.
But that's
I
not.
guess it's supposed to stop.
No, I'm sorry. And I never was in a gang. You not gonna show me a video of you bullying some shit and I'm gonna look at you like, I don't wanna mess with you. I'm beating the shit out you. That's not my fight, but you got me tight because it's like, bro, what did they do to you? Nothing? Okay, bet. You ain't do nothing to me. Now your ass is beat. Yeah, same topic. Call me a bully if you want. Now you know how they feel. It feels wrong, don't it? Yeah, I wonder why. Because it's wrong. What the hell? Like,
I guess it's supposed to establish some sort of street credit. I mean, they do get away with it. So like, I can't even call them stupid because the law is stupid and they get away with it. So student 5, the Mongolian student, had moved to South Korea about 10 years ago. So she's 14. She's basically been born and raised in South Korea. Like, not really, but she came here when she's 4. It's as much her home as it is anybody else's.
Right.
But there are 4 excuses of a human being that did not think so. They basically kidnap student 5, kidnap her around midnight, July 3rd of 2021. They hold her for 6 hours, beat her. They humiliate her by placing her underwear on her head, taking videos of that. They wrote racist slurs on her forehead. They tied her up. They punched her over and over in the face. They were so proud of themselves. Like I said, they tried to sell this footage to their fellow classmates. Eventually, they were taken in by authorities. 2 were sentenced to a juvenile center, but 2 of them, since they were younger than 14, they couldn't even be held criminally responsible. And it's not just the older kids. Student 6 was 9 years old when her nightmare started. Like, these kids that we've been talking about so far have been 14, 15, and that's so young. That's so young. But student 6 was 9 years old. This is a very recent case in the winter of 2022. So just a couple months ago, a 12-year-old boy had called up student 6, a 9-year-old girl that he went to the same school as. She's in 3rd grade. And he's like, hey, come onto the rooftop of the apartment that we live in and let's hang out. I want to play fun games with you. And he's like forcing her to come to the rooftop to play with him. He had made a surprise for her to play on. It's the winter, so it's snowing a lot in South Korea.
This is in school or what?
No, after school. They go to the same school.
Oh, okay. What is that?
He said it's a snow bed.
Uh-huh.
He told her to lie down. She was sexually assaulted by the 12-year-old boy. After that, he convinced her to send pictures of herself to him and threatened to make her a wangta in school, meaning a complete loner in school if she did not. She was too scared to say anything, and the only reason he was caught was because a school teacher happened upon the messages by chance. What's crazy is the school did not take action. He graduated soon after the incident out of elementary school. No criminal record, nothing, because he's 12. The victim and her parents, they didn't even get any sense of justice. In fact, they're trying to save up to move out of this apartment building because their daughter, 9-year-old daughter, is too scared to even take the elevator. Like, she's so traumatized. There's nothing they can do about it. Legally, because he's 12, he's not going to have a criminal record if he's punished. He's going to get probation, or he's going to be sent to like a correctional home for a few days. That's that. Bro. So it's not really shocking that in the past 10 years, South Korea's suicide rates in youths has jumped nearly 50%. About 25% of Korean youths have thought about taking their own lives. And about 25% of that number said they wanted to end their lives due to school violence.
You're saying 25% out of
everyone
all
want to
youth?
take their end life. Yes, have thought about it at one point.
Yo.
A quarter of all Korean youths. Korea has one of the worst suicide rates in the developed world.
And then 25% of that.
School violence. So we've covered bullying. And one of the last central themes in The Glory was revenge, right? And it's said that that element in the whole show was inspired by a Japanese case. The case of Student 9. Student 9 plotted 12 years to murder the classmates that bullied him. He waited over a decade to try and enact his revenge. So there's not too many details on his school violence or his bullying experience, but Student 9 never really had friends. Like, he didn't expect to get bullied, but he was kind of introverted. He was a bit shy. He never got along with too many people, but soon after elementary school, in middle school, these kids started coming up to him and started beating him up. They would hit him with wooden chairs. They would mock him, pour things over his head, lock him in the supply closet. That was just the start. Eventually, they start tearing off his clothes to humiliate him. They would force him to strip naked in front of girls. Student 9 tried to report the bullying to teachers and parents, but they did absolutely nothing. Instead, they asked him what he did to piss them off. They told him toxically, be a man, stand up for yourself then. It didn't get any better during high school, but I think his whole mindset shifted. He went from being this depressed middle schooler to being angry. He wrote in his diary, "Today was my 18th birthday. I'll let those stupid guys who made me suffer die with me. This is the only reason I'm alive now." He shifted his whole life plan to enact revenge. He studied hard during high school, he got into college, and he started majoring in chemistry. And it was all part of the revenge plan. He wanted to gain knowledge and access to the resources he needed to follow through with a mass murder. He wanted to kill 45 people.
What?
So 46. He said he would devote his 20s to learn how to make a homemade bomb with his chemistry knowledge and find out the best way to kill them all. He wrote in his diary, "I've been thinking about all the ways to kill them, but in the end, using chemical toxins seems to be the best. I even majored in it during college because this is my life goal." And when he turned 27, it had been nearly 12 years, he gathered all 40 of his classmates, 5 teachers, and asked them when they would be available for a class reunion that he was organizing.
Oh, so from that same exact class.
Yeah. He told them he would have drinks and food all there, and he had no regrets on what he was about to do. Even though only a few of his classmates were the actual physical abusers, he felt like they all deserved to die.
That's what I'm
He
trying
wrote
to
in his
figure out.
diary, I finished the
40
experiment.
people?
It's been so painful for me to stay alive. This is all gonna end soon. All those who have treated me like a bug are about to get what they deserve. He filled the beer bottles with arsenic. He made homemade bombs to kill all 46 people in attendance. And for backup, he brought a remodeled gun. He thought if the bomb failed, he would kill them all one by one. But he did not take his mom into consideration.
What?
Days leading up to it, he was so dead set on his revenge plan. He was so distracted. He didn't realize that he had left his diary out for his mom to read. She had been worried about recent behavior, and she read it, realized what he was planning, what he had planned for 12 years of his life. She reported him to the police.
Damn.
He was promptly arrested. The beer was confiscated, the bombs, the guns, they were all retrieved. And after the arrest, Student 9 said, I just wanted the world to know what I went through, what I felt growing up. He was charged with 6 years in prison for the attempted murder of 45 of his classmates and teachers. It is said that Student 9's story heavily inspired the decades-long revenge plot in The Glory, the drama.
Okay, and you know, he attempted to kill 40 people. That's a mass murder. But what about them folks that caused him to feel that way? They just continue living life?
So that's 1 through 9 of the 10 out of 100 students who are physically abused in school. And Student 10 was kind of an unexpected one. Just before The Glory Part 2 was released, literally hours before Part 2 was released, Student 10 came out to accuse the producer of The Glory for bullying.
What?
An Kid-ho is a producer on the show The Glory, and it's said that a former classmate from the Philippines, because producer An studied abroad, Student 10 said, yeah, he himself was a freaking bully. In 1996, he was in middle school. Student 10 was in middle school. Producer An was in high school.
I was
but he was
born
dating
then.
a middle school girlfriend, right? And Student 10 and his friends had teased the producer's girlfriends. You know, like just very middle school play, bickering, joking around.
Right.
But Student 10 was suddenly summoned to be brought in front of the producer and his friends like they were some sort of panel judges. And from there, Student 10 was jumped by the producer and his friends. The assault lasted for nearly 2 hours. He said he was threatened by the producer and his friends, and he was yelling at him, I'll bring a knife and I'll stab you. Student 10 wrote, I just found it absurd and unforgivable that he was directing a TV show about bringing justice to school violence when he literally assaulted me. I was so upset, I wanted to go public with what happened. The producer immediately responded publicly by saying, it is true I went to school in the Philippines in 1996, but I never was violent with anyone. I don't recall ever ganging up on someone and assaulting them. But as quickly as he tried to shut down the claims, his former girlfriend, a middle school girlfriend at the time, remember? She came forward and said, I do remember Student 10 being abused. And all he did was tease me. And honestly, if I had known that producer An was gonna beat him, I wouldn't have told him. It was just very normal bickering amongst high school or middle school friends. So now the producer could not deny it anymore. He has since publicly responded with an apology. A representative said, the producer deeply asks for forgiveness from the bottom of his heart from those who have been hurt by this incident. He wants to express that if given the chance, he would like to apologize in person or via call.
That is the irony, huh?
Yeah, the fact that they screened all the actors and actresses, but not the producers or the directors or the writers is kind of beyond me.
I hope this is bringing a lot of lights to this school bullying situation, no?
Yes, it is. And it's, you know, I think the deeper, okay, so that's how I felt when I was first looking into it, right? And I'm like, okay, this is really good.
They're not going to do anything
But then
about
I
it.
also saw some very, like, really deep rabbit hole stuff where recently a couple of K-pop idols have been accused of bullying, and then it came out that they were not bullies, and it completely ruined their lives. So it's getting very strange.
Yeah, but
I would say overall, yes, this is a huge plus. But I
Okay.
don't know if it's the government's going to do anything. I'm assuming. I don't know, actually.
Like, they
'cause there have
have
been so many
to.
cases where the public is outraged, and we try to sign all these petitions, and we do everything we can, and then nothing happens. But it is a global problem. Like, violence in schools seems to be just prevalent everywhere. And yeah, you can say in Korea it's only 10% of students that experience violence at the hands of bullies, but 10% is a lot. And these are just some of the stories of the 10%. Let me know your thoughts. Did you know that The Glory was inspired by real cases? And how did The Glory make you feel? Let me know, and I will see you guys
I
on
didn't
Wednesday
watch
for
it
the main
yet.
episode. Bye.
Everything those bullies did to those people, bro, they deserve to get done to them. I don't think I said that sentence right. I'm not even gonna hold you. It's sad, bruh. Especially for that girl that got assaulted. She has to live in the same apartment as her assaulter, bruh. And then for these people to experience such trauma and then to see the world just move on like their trauma doesn't matter. It does, bro. I promise you it does. If I was in a position of power where I was able to change the laws and I hear stories about this, I'm not just sitting there like, they're just kids. No, something needs to be done, bruh. They may just be kids, but the type of things that is happening to these kids would traumatize fully fledged adults, bro. I hope they change them South Korean laws, because something has to get done about these very, very malicious kids. Where are they getting this energy from, bro? This is crazy. I feel so bad for them kids. It's a wicked world out here, tribe. Y'all be careful, okay? I ain't gonna take up much more of y'all time though. Enough of me. No, seriously, enough of me. It's been your boy Tribe Loui, and in case I don't say it, even though I will, good day, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Tribe. Good night.
It's the end. Leave a like and share it to your friends and your kin. When I post a video, I'm gonna need y'all to attend. Thank you for the view, but I ain't done with you. 2023, I'm about to be Jordan with the flu. Yeah, join the tribe. Yeah, join the tribe. I'm gonna need y'all to subscribe.